So, what if Barney was a psychotic control freak? What if you took Pee-wee's Playhouse, Five Nights at Freddy's, The Backrooms, Alice in Wonderland, The Dark Crystal, and even a little bit of sprinkle of Mr. Crockett, you throw all that in a blender, well, you would have created one of the strangest movies I've seen this year, and that's how I would describe Buddy. We're going to get into it here in a second, but I'm going to just say it now. I like this movie way more than I expected. Going into Buddy, I knew the basic premise. Giant orange unicorn, creepy children's television show, things obviously aren't what they seem. But I was not prepared for just how weird this movie was gonna get. And I mean that as a compliment. Because even when I had absolutely no idea where this thing was gonna take me, I was completely invested in this bizarre world. So today I want to give you all my spoiler-free thoughts and review of Buddy, which comes from director Casper Kelly, the filmmaker behind Too Many Cooks, and if you know Too Many Cooks, that information alone should probably tell you what type of insanity you're walking into. So the basic plot of this story revolves around this children's television show called It's Buddy. Buddy is this gigantic, bright orange talking unicorn who lives in this colorful world alongside a group of kids and all these different type of characters. You've got songs, games, life lessons, talking objects, big colorful sets, everybody's smiling and everybody loves Buddy. It's basically the type of children's program that feels like it was pulled directly out of the 80s or the 90s. Except there's something very wrong underneath it all. So when one of the kids eventually decides they don't want to play with Buddy anymore, let's just say Buddy doesn't exactly handle rejection very well. From here, the facade slowly starts breaking down and these kids begin discovering that this happy little world they've been living in might actually be a prison. So let's get into what worked for me in this film. What impressed me immediately about this movie was just how committed it was to this idea. Because they could have easily made this feel like a cheap horror parody of Barney. And again, there are obviously elements of that here, but the production design is honestly incredible. I could not stop looking at this movie. I'm talking the sets, the costumes, the puppets, the different creatures and characters popping in and out of the story. It was all so well made. All of these little details scattered throughout Buddy's world had such a tactile quality to everything. It felt handmade and physical and truly unique and brought this world to life. It really did look like this was a strange children's television program that existed somewhere in the 90s and somebody found it on like an old VHS tape in their basement and then realized this show should probably never have ever been made. Again, my comps for this film is definitely Pee-wee's Playhouse in there. I definitely got some Dark Crystal vibes. There's a little Five Nights at Freddy's to it with these characters that are supposed to be comforting but slowly become increasingly terrifying. And visually, there were even moments where the movie reminded me of the Backrooms because you're in these spaces that feel familiar and nostalgic, but something about them is just slightly off. And that feeling only gets worse the longer you're in there. That's where I think Casper Kelly's direction really works because this movie doesn't immediately show its entire hand. Because instead of immediately throwing you into, look, the unicorn is evil, it's crazy, it's killing all these kids, instead the movie actually lets you live inside the world and the tone, and it helps you understand the routines. So you understand what the kids are expected to do, you understand Buddy's personality, and more importantly, you understand what happens when somebody starts disrupting that routine. So when things eventually start getting darker and sinister and creepy, it feels like you're watching this childhood fantasy slowly rot from the inside out. And that's where I found some of the themes here to be surprisingly interesting. Because underneath all the ridiculousness going on in this film, Buddy is really playing around with the childhood innocence and control and manipulation. Buddy presents himself as this character who loves these kids. He's their friend, he protects them, he teaches them, but the more you watch him, the more you realize that a lot of this love is conditional. Buddy loves you as long as you follow Buddy's rules. You play his games, you sing his songs, you smile when you're supposed to smile, and you never question why any of this is happening. For me, there's something really disturbing about taking the type of character children are taught to trust completely and then turning that character into a person manipulating them. And honestly, I kind of wish the movie would have pushed some of those ideas even further because there's really something interesting there. Now, a lot of that works because of Keegan-Michael Key as Buddy. He is electric in this role. Like, he is charming yet very sinister because he knows exactly how to play that balance of like an exaggerated children's show positivity without making Buddy immediately terrifying. He's again goofy, he's ridiculously enthusiastic, he's extremely awkward, and at times he is truly hilarious. But there's always something sinister within the performance that feels wrong in all the best ways. And when that personality starts changing, Key can make Buddy uncomfortable without completely abandoning the ridiculous character that we've already gotten to know, and I just loved him in this role. Now, one of my favorite actors is in this film, and that's Cristin Milioti, who plays Grace, and she is so fantastic as well. And without getting into the spoilers, she represents another side of the story that allows the movie to explore what exists outside the strange children's show reality. If you've ever watched Milioti in something like The Penguin, which she was so great in, you already know how good she is at taking material that can become heightened and bringing something very human to it. But I also have to talk about the MVP for me in this film, which is Delaney Quinn as Freddy, because she is really good. And honestly, the entire group of kids deserve a lot of credit. One of the biggest risks with a movie like this is when you're asking a group of young actors to carry huge portions of a very strange horror comedy, and not once did I feel like their performances were taking me out of the film. I wasn't annoyed by the kids. I wasn't sitting there waiting for the adults to come into the story. I cared about these kids getting out of the situation, and Freddy really becomes the emotional anchor of the group. Delaney Quinn has to balance that kid-like wonder and pure joy and innocence. She plays the fear really well and some of the more emotional moments without ever feeling like she's trying too hard. She was one of the biggest surprises of this entire film because she is essentially the lead of the movie. And while we're talking about characters, shout out to Mr. Mailbox and Mr. Strappy. When you see the film, you know exactly where I'm bringing them up. And there are other interesting characters that pop in and out of the story, and they're the type of completely bizarre characters this movie keeps introducing, where eventually you just have to stop questioning anything and just kind of roll with the punches. And another thing I really enjoyed about this film is like I found it hilarious. It's not like necessarily joke funny, but there is a lot of humor that comes from how awkward everything is. Characters staring at each other way too long, the overly positive children's show performances, the absurdity of the situation being treated like they're just completely normal really worked for me. It's that uncomfortable type of comedy where you're laughing while thinking, why is this making me so uncomfortable? And that's basically the entire Buddy experience. Now, get into some of my criticisms, and I will say this is kind of a good thing and a bad thing. The good thing is I was so invested in this world that I just wanted more, and that's where my negatives come in, right? I wanted to explore more of this world, more of the lore that was going on in Buddy's world. I wanted this movie to explain more about how all of this actually worked. And obviously, I have to be careful here because I don't want to spoil anything as far as the places the story goes. But once the movie starts introducing elements of the real world and showing you how that connects to Buddy's world, my brain immediately started asking questions. How does this place actually work? What are the actual rules here? Where did certain things come from? How much control does Buddy actually have? What actually connects the two worlds? And there are answers to some of those questions, but not quite enough for what I wanted, right? And normally I can appreciate a movie leaving certain things like ambiguous and you don't necessarily need to know everything. Like I didn't need the Buddy Cinematic Universe Wikipedia page after watching this, and I didn't need a post-credit scene with Nick Fury showing up to recruit Mr. Strappy or Mr. Mailbox. But this world is so imaginative that I just wanted to understand it just a little bit more. So while the story itself is relatively straightforward, I actually think the mythology surrounding that story could have used another layer. And then there's the horror elements of this film. Like, look, you guys know me. My sicko brain wanted this movie to go a little bit more harder with the violence. Like, there are absolutely some violent moments in this film, don't get me wrong. Like, Buddy is not playing around. But with the premise involving a homicidal giant unicorn terrifying people inside this nightmare children's show world, I started imagining some absolutely insane kills that could have took place, and the movie doesn't always go as far as I wanted it to. Now, I understand why. There's a tonal balancing act happening where if you suddenly became Terrifier with a giant orange unicorn, you'll probably lose some of that weird childlike quality that makes the movie unique, so I understand the restraint to a certain extent. But I would have taken, like, I don't know, 15% more gross and nasty moments and more crazy over-the-top kills. Again, just about 15%. I wanted Buddy to fully cook into the crazy moments. So overall, Buddy really surprised me. I went into this thinking the concept sounded fun and probably a little ridiculous, but I came out really impressed by how much personality this movie actually had. I mean, this movie is weird, it's creepy, it's unsettling, it's funny, it's imaginative, the production design was great, the performances were strong, especially from Keegan-Michael Key and Delaney Quinn, and I just love how committed this movie is to creating this completely bizarre world and never apologizing for how strange it actually gets. Again, I do wish we would have learned a little bit more mythology and the mechanics connecting everything together, and yes, I want a little bit more violence, but the fact that I walked away wanting more of this world instead of being exhausted by it probably tells you how much this movie worked for me. Again, there were many moments in this film where I was sitting there watching this thinking to myself, what the hell am I watching? But immediately after that, I wanted to see what weird thing they were going to throw at me next. And honestly, sometimes that's exactly what I want from a film. So I'm going to give Buddy a 3.5 out of 5. I really enjoyed myself this film. I was pleasantly surprised with this movie. And I'll just say this. I wouldn't be mad if they made a Buddy Part 2 because there is a portion of this film where you see a painting and let's just say there's other characters that we could explore, other stories to explore in this world, and I would be down for a Buddy Part 2. But hey, let me know if you all are excited for Buddy, which will be in theaters on August 28th. And once you all have seen it, come back to this video, go in the comments, share what worked, what didn't work, who was your favorite character, would you want to see a sequel? Let's talk about it all in the comments below. I want to thank you all for watching or listening to today's review. Many reviews to come, many other videos to come. So in the meantime, if you enjoyed yourself, hit the like button. If you're watching this on YouTube, hit the hype button as well. Share this video to anyone and everyone you know that loves these type of movies. Also share your thoughts again in the comments below. And if you are new to the channel, consider subscribing and sticking around. Thank you all again. Hope you all are staying safe. Don't forget, you all are awesome, and I'll catch you all on the next video.